Coming up on today's edition of Airborne, Enstrom Helicopter is under new management. Eclipse Aerospace says it can save the U.S. Air Force $1 billion. And flying under the stars in Poland. I'm Ashley Hale. Welcome to Airborne on Aero-TV. Well, it looks like China has gobbled up yet another aircraft manufacturer. Word comes from Enstrom that as of December 27, 2012, Chongqing Helicopter Investment Co Limited has acquired Enstrom Helicopter Corporation, moving from one foreign owner to another. CQHIC is focused on helping Enstrom expand its reach into China and the rest of the world. The number of helicopters in Asia represents only a small percent of the number of helicopters in the United States. While Asia has a significantly larger population and is expected to be a major market for helicopters over the next 2 decades. Enstrom says it has seen a 50% growth in employment over the past 18 months, and with the new ownership expects to grow to meet future and current demands. Enstrom President Jerry Mullins said, quote, "This strong ownership will allow further growth of our business in Menominee, Michigan, to meet the demands of the increasing markets around the world, especially Asia." Well, the U.S. Air Force is looking to replace its 20-year-old fleet of legacy business jets, which are used for their Specialized Undergraduate Pilot Training multi-place training track, and Eclipse Aerospace thinks it has the answer. Eclipse recently responded to the U.S. Air Force's request for information for a large fleet of very light jets to support their SUPT program. Mason Holland, Eclipse's CEO, stated, quote, "The Eclipse jet meets and/or exceeds all of the SUPT syllabus requirements. More importantly, from a budgetary viewpoint, our response demonstrates how the USAF can save over $1 billion of operation and maintenance costs over 10 years by converting to an Eclipse jet fleet." End quote. The Eclipse jet is 70% more fuel efficient and it's 70% less costly to support than the current SUPT legacy aircraft. As the largest consumer of jet fuel in the U.S. government, the Air Force is seeking ways to reduce their fuel consumption and operating cost. By converting the SUPT program to the Eclipse jet, the USAF could save 130 million gallons of jet fuel over 10 years. Pipistrel is officially flying the first European ultralight aircraft, certified for night flight in Poland, the Alpha Trainer. Night VFR gives Pipistrel Alpha Trainer owners the possibility to keep flying even when wintertime shortens the daylight hours. Flight schools also benefit from extended operating time with the Alpha, which is the most cost-effective trainer for night VFR operations. The Pipistrel Alpha Trainer is a 2-seat composite aircraft, which is powered by the Rotax 912 80-horsepower engine. It burns only 2.5 U.S. gallons per hour of fuel on a typical flight. Alpha Trainer ships in one full equipment configuration, which includes radio, transponder, GPS, ballistic parachute rescue system, specially developed analog digital instruments, extra strong landing gear, external lights, and more. It seems like low and slow is still popular amongst recreational pilots. Light aircraft designer and manufacturer CubCrafters has announced that as of December 31st, it has delivered 58 new airplanes during calendar year 2012. That's a 23% increase over 2011 and more units than any year in the company's history. The increase in deliveries required a commensurate increase in production. The company invested in a major expansion of their FAA-certified manufacturing facility, adding a 50,000 square foot weld and CNC machine shop during the year. Randy Lervold, CubCrafters general manager, commented, quote, "Despite the economic climate, we've managed to defy industry trends and set CubCrafters on a growth path. There's certainly more work to be done, but we already expect to increase deliveries in 2013 to 66 aircraft." End quote. CubCrafters' 2012 deliveries are spread across their 3 models: the Carbon Cub SS, the Sport Cub S2, and the Top Cub. It's been a bad month for Boeing. The NTSB continues to investigate Monday's fire on board a JAL 787 Dreamliner. The fire has been traced to the battery used to start an aft auxiliary power unit. There were no passengers aboard at the time, but one fireman received minor injuries. In a statement, Boeing said, quote, "Nothing that we've seen in this case indicates a relationship to any previous 787 power system events, which involved power panel faults elsewhere in the aft electrical equipment bay. Information about the prior events has been shared with the NTSB, and they are aware of the details." End quote. Boeing stock has taken a sharp downturn over the past few days, in part because of a second incident involving a JAL Dreamliner departing Boston on Tuesday. That flight was reportedly delayed after fuel was spotted leaking from one of the airplane's wings by the pilot of another aircraft as it taxied out for takeoff. This according to media sources, including CNN. Those were just the most recent incidents, following 3 in December, one of which led to an emergency landing for an unspecified mechanical problem, which was on a Dreamliner flight operated by United Airlines. Airline industry trade organization Airlines for America on Monday reaffirmed its opposition to the extension of the FAA's pilot duty and rest rules beyond passenger airlines to all cargo pilots. Issued in December of 2011, the rules established lower accumulated flight times and a 10-hour minimum rest period. Pilots' unions, particularly those representing pilots for cargo carriers, have since lobbied to have the rules extended to cargo pilots. Congressmen Michael Grimm and Tim Bishop agree and recently introduced legislation to extend the rules. A4A contends that the proposed legislation is ill-advised, with no basis in science or relevant data. A4A President and CEO Nicholas E. Calio said, quote, "All stakeholders actively participated in the rulemaking, which was composed of a scientific review, and the rule as put forward by the FAA builds on our safety record." End quote. You're watching Airborne. More when we come back.
Since the early days of powered flight, pilots have struggled with landing in crosswinds and learning proper crosswind landing techniques. Even today, most crosswind landing skills are learned through trial and error, sometimes with disastrous results. Believe it or not, the most common contributing factor in weather-related accidents each year is crosswinds. The second most common factor is wind gusts. In fact, crosswinds and wind gusts cause more landing accidents than fog, thunderstorms, and icing combined. That's where the Redbird X-Wind SE comes in. It teaches pilots the proper techniques to meet and beat these top 2 causes of weather-related landing accidents. By placing pilots in gusty crosswind conditions for extended periods of time, the X-Wind SE gives instructors all the time they need to teach the pilot the proper techniques for landing in challenging crosswind conditions. For more information on Redbird flight simulations, the Redbird X-Wind SE, and Redbird's entire line of flight training devices, visit www.redbirdflightsimulations.com.
Welcome back. If you'd like to suggest a story for Airborne Aero-TV, our website or podcast, drop us an email to news-spy@aero-news.net. The 2013 U.S. Sport Aviation Expo is nearly upon us, and the Aero-News Network will be webcasting live from the grounds. An expert assemblage of ANN's top journalists have been assigned to generate dozens of stories about the event. And if that weren't enough, ANN is launching the next Sport Plane Resource Guide straight from Sebring, and will be unveiling details about the 3rd edition of this pivotal, extraordinary aviation resource. No aviation entity currently gets to as many people every day as ANN, so if you have a story suggestion for us, you can always send us your press materials and news packages to news@aero-news.net. And of course, you can read more about all of our coverage of Sebring at www.aero-news.net. Aspen Aviation has taken quick action to fix a problem with their Evolution's flight displays with EWR-50 Evolution weather receivers. The company recently informed its users of a temporary problem in displaying XM weather on the displays. Under normal operation, the Evolution software continually checks the age of the XM weather information it is receiving in order to ensure that the most current information is displayed and older data is discarded. However, the problem is the software is treating all weather data received as old, and thus will not load any weather data to the displays. The issue was discovered New Year's Day, and Aspen has already developed, tested, and released a software fix. Those experiencing this issue are instructed to contact their local Aspen authorized dealer to arrange having the new software update, Evolution Software version 2.61, installed. The update is free, and the labor to install it is covered in full by Aspen. Once again, it's TGIF, and that means time again for our weekly commentary from ANN's Editor-in-Chief, Jim Campbell. Sometimes it seems as if GA has as many alphabet organizations as there are letters in the alphabet. And today, Jim is wondering if that just might be too many.
Thanks, Ashley, and hi, folks, and Happy New Year. I wanted to touch upon something that just came up in a conversation the other day, and it was kind of interesting because it makes a whole lot of sense, and while I'm not quite sure there's any real potential for anybody paying attention to the idea for anything happening, it's certainly something to consider. And the basic question was this. We have EAA, we have Gamma, we have AOPA. We have a number of associations all dedicated to general aviation interests. Collectively, they have a tremendous amount of resources and assets to deal with, a great staff in most cases. You know, we're a little questionable on some of the leadership on a few of those. But let's face it, there's a tremendous amount of talent out there and a tremendous amount of resources. The problem is that we have all these disparate organizations. There's some duplication of effort. There's some crossover. And then, of course, there's some competition between organizations that really isn't in the best interest of aviation overall. Because what we really need to be doing is working together to the best effect, regardless of whose turf it is. So what would happen if we took an EAA, a Gamma, an AOPA, and a number of the true general aviation associations, roll them up into one super association with, you know, tremendous amount of assets, tremendous amount of resources, made it lean and mean from a standpoint of no longer duplicating on some of the same efforts, and then went to Washington, and then put our case before the public, and then started representing the interests of general aviation stronger, better, more organized, leaner, meaner, and then producing even better results. Now, don't get me wrong, EAA and AOPA are probably never going to, you know, kiss, make up, and decide to be, you know, one organization. I just don't see it. Much as I'd like to look at the possibilities, there are some synergies involved in everybody getting together and trying to work together. Maybe we can look at that as a beginning and see where it goes from there. But there is a tremendous amount of duplication of effort. There is a tremendous amount of competition. There is a tremendous amount of waste. And right now, with the economy we have and the economy we're likely to have for the next 4 years, we need to be lean, mean, organized, and most important of all working on the same game plan. Think about it. Let me know what you think. For the Aero-News Network, Airborne, and of course Aero-TV, I'm Jim Campbell. Take care, folks.
Finally, today on Airborne, the 230-foot-long, 36,000-pound variable buoyancy prototype airship, known as the Aero's Pelican, has taken its first baby steps. The behemoth airship showed that it could move near the ground without assistance from ground personnel. The airship was maneuvered from the cockpit using air-bearing landing gear. This was the first of 4 Pentagon-required tests. Aero CEO Igor Pasternak said that he hopes that the remaining 3 milestones can be reached soon. Those would include vertical takeoff, delivery of cargo without adding ballast, and the ability of the airship's aeroshell to maintain its rigidity without being pressurized. So far, all of the tests have been conducted in Aeros's hangar. Pasternak said the airship was in a heavier-than-air mode for the ground handling test. He said that while the Pelican is configured for flight in open air, some modifications would likely be necessary to meet FAA requirements for flight testing. The company's goal is to build a 450-foot-long airship capable of carrying 66 tons, more than 3,000 nautical miles, without refueling. Well, that's our program for January 11th. Remember, you can get comprehensive real-time, 24/7 coverage of the latest aviation and aerospace stories anytime at Aero-News.net. I'm Ashley Hale. Thanks for watching.